are live and actually going to get started in 1 minute. So just if you're joining me live, just get comfortable, and you may want to grab a pen and paper because we may actually offer you some suggestions that, of course, you can watch the replay, but you want to make sure you're prepared to jot those ideas down, the things that you can apply immediately from what I'm going to share with you here today. Okay, it is straight up top of the hour, and I am going to start on time. So here we go. Welcome to the Let's Talk Toxin Show. In this episode, we'll explore a few of the countless ways stress turns toxic so that women like me and you can reverse engineer how to manage and release the accumulated toxicity, whether it's from garden variety stress, diet, environment, or any other source. It's our kryptonite, and it's extra baggage that weighs us down. It leaves us feeling tired and blah. And if that sounds familiar, don't worry, you're here. And we're going to explore practical, simple strategies to cleanse our bodies and minds so we can feel lighter, healthier, more vibrant, and feel the spring returning to our steps. And if you're new here, I'm Dr. Gayla Gorman, a licensed acupuncturist, naturopath, and author of What's Your Kryptonite? I wrote the book to help women understand the effects of chronic stress that's turned toxic. In the book, I share the MOLT method I developed to make it easy to shed stress along with the accumulated toxicity, just like any other creature in nature that has outgrown its trappings. You can cruise through midlife and beyond symptom-free so that you can put an end to health issues like chronic fatigue, insomnia, mood swings, and even weight gain. So today we are going to talk about 4 ways to fall and stay asleep. And according to the government website Women's Health, that's at women's health, not womenshealth.gov, insomnia is one of the most commonly reported sleep problems. 1 in 4 women has some insomnia symptoms like trouble falling asleep, trouble staying asleep, or both. And about 1 in 7 adults has chronic long-term insomnia. Personally, I think that statistic is reversed. 1 in 4 women don't have sleep problems by the time they reach midlife. But fortunately, again, you're here, so we're going to give you a few hacks and ways that you can fall and stay asleep easily. So first, let's talk about sunset lenses. With the sunset lenses, it's important to recognize that these blue screens that we are bombarded with nonstop, the computer screens that I'm in front of right now, our phones, tablets, even the television screens, all of these blue screens are damaging the retina of our eyes. And they are particularly damaging when it comes to the system that is triggered naturally for falling asleep. And so one of the ways that can be really helpful to fall asleep and stay asleep is to start using these sunset lens blue blocker glasses in the evening. So by about 7 or 8 p.m., several hours before it's time to fall asleep, you want to start limiting your exposure to blue screens, in particular using these sunset lenses. I found when I started using the sunset lenses that literally within a few minutes of putting them on in the evening, I find that I start yawning, and it just makes falling asleep way easier. And because of this cascade that is working properly, it will also help us stay asleep to limit our exposure to the blue screens. And your eyes will thank you as well. The blue screens are causing damage, and there is some initial research coming out that is indicating that they may actually be causing retina damage. So if you have any sort of issues with your eyes already, it's really important to limit your exposure to the blue screens and use these sunset lens blue blockers. These sunset lenses are kind of orange tinted, and to your system, they're mimicking the sunset essentially. Next, we're going to talk about early time restricted eating. And so there have been some research studies done on early time restricted eating. So what does early time restricted eating mean? That means that you are going to essentially honor an eating window that does not extend past 6 p.m. It's even better to end your eating window by about 3 or 4 p.m. And so they found with research that people could eat pretty much whatever they wanted as long as they didn't eat past about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And so I refer to ETR as the cheater's diet. So if you're somebody who wants to be able to get away with, having dessert and splurging on some of the foods that you really love that maybe don't love you, you want to make sure you do that before 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So early time restricted eating is really a powerful tool to help you not just fall asleep, but stay asleep. So when you're eating well into the evening, what happens is your digestive system and your liver is still trying to process all of that. We're going to talk more about this later, about what's happening in the middle of the night. But if you will give your body enough time to truly empty out your digestive system before sleep, then you will find that your body can kind of shut down and do all the repair work that it normally does when it's in rest mode. And so we find that it takes about 2 hours for our stomach to empty, and then another 4 to 7 hours for the food to get through the small intestine, which is sort of your first part of your digestive process. And so if you think about it, that is 6 to 9 hours after you eat your last meal that your body is still in serious digestion mode. So if we're eating and we're done eating by about 3 or 4 p.m., then by about 10 o'clock, your body should be pretty much done dealing with that last meal and really able to prepare for sleeping soundly and taking care of that maintenance that's been deferred all day while it's been dealing with all the other things that we have to deal with when our body is up and at 'em and doing activities of daily living, essentially. So the next way is to really create a cool environment that's conducive to sleep. And so this is kind of a challenge for people because if you're in a situation where you can only get your bedroom cool if you cool the whole house, I know that can be kind of uncomfortable, but you really do need to get your bedroom down to at least 70 degrees. Somewhere between 65 and 70, you'll find is a comfortable space that you can live with. The 70 degrees is what I have found to be kind of like the maximum temperature that I can comfortably sleep in. And one of the ways I monitor that is I have a little battery operated clock that I keep next to the bed. And that clock has a thermostat essentially built into it. So I can easily monitor what the temperature is in the bedroom. And for example, if you eat late, you'll find that because your body is still revved up and digesting, you may feel warm. This is one of the things that contributes to hot flashes. And so if you wake up warm and you look at that clock and you can see that the temperature is where it needs to be in the bedroom, then you know that your body is just abnormally warm because it has not been able to shut down and initiate this process that would normally be happening as you're trying to sleep. So cool environment, really important. I have uh, installed a special air conditioning unit that just works in the bedroom, and so that we don't have to turn the temperature down in the rest of the environment. But again, that's a cost you may not be able to bear. You may just have to turn your air conditioning down so that the space gets cool, um, so that you can sleep at night. And lastly, as we're talking about falling and staying asleep, this concept of creating a safe space is something you may not have heard about before. But as women, we tend to have kind of, I call it spidey sense. Our radar is always up and looking out for danger. And that is happening even when we're sleeping. Many women consider themselves to be pretty light sleepers. I know I am. And the reason I'm a light sleeper is because I've got this kind of radar going nonstop. And so it's really important that the whole environment where you are trying to sleep feels really safe. This means you should be able to control the light and the noise, and maybe have a door where you can secure the environment. One of the things that really can help soothe your nervous system is a weighted blanket. And so I personally need to sleep with covers. And so that's, one of the reasons that it's a bit of a conundrum, because you might think that you are able to sleep in a warmer environment, but maybe you're sleeping with really light covers or no covers, and your body will most likely not relax in that sort of setup. You're going to need to get the temperature cooler, and then cover your body so that it feels really safe, kind of tucked in, snug as a bug in a rug. You may recall hearing when you were younger, and you probably still say that to your kids, where you tuck them in, or you probably may have grandkids at this point. But if you tuck them in at night, you tuck them in where they feel like they're really secure and safe in their sleeping environment. And honestly, this continues well into adulthood. This is not something that is only for the kiddos. Our body and our nervous system is still heightened awareness mode. In some ways, it might even be more on like heightened awareness mode than it was when we were little, because basically we trusted the grown-ups to create a safe space for us. So it's really important to create that safe space and have an environment that feels like it really is a place where you can go to sleep and not have to worry that something is going to occur that you need to be able to jump right on. And so some of these things that I talk about, like insomnia, for example, insomnia or sleep disturbance is a symptom. And I can say with confidence that every symptom is caused by accumulated toxicity. In my human energy system reboot, one of the 7 ways we deal with accumulated toxicity is what I refer to as the fierce 5. And so if you know or suspect that you have food sensitivities, then eliminating the fierce 5 will be worth the discomfort. And so it's only a week. That's how we initiate a human energy system reboot. And that may be all it takes. If you'd like my 1-page Fierce 5 summary with the top 10 sources for each of the 5, just comment Fierce 5 and we'll get you a link to download it. If commenting isn't convenient, go to drgala.com/links and sign up for my newsletter. You can respond to any email you receive from me with Fierce 5, and we'll send you a link. So if you're one of the many women who struggle to fall or stay asleep, you heard the statistics, you may have wondered what the root cause of the problem is. So I'm going to answer some of the questions I get about sleep, and you may have wondered the same thing. So let's see if these are some of your questions. How can I create a safe and calming space conducive to better sleep? So I talked about the weighted blanket. Some of the other things you can use to create a safe and calming space is a noise canceling machine. So with white noise, an ocean sound, or just, sort of clean slate, white noise can help to just kind of drown out any just normal noises. I mean, something as simple as the ice maker dropping ice can wake you up in the middle of the night if you don't have something that's kind of canceling those noises out. And then we talked about, being able to sleep with covers, so you've got a cool enough environment, but potentially using a weighted blanket if you really are struggling to stay asleep. This tends to not be as much of an issue for falling asleep, but if you're having trouble staying asleep, then a weighted blanket may keep your nervous system really sort of soothed and calmed down, so that you can be able to drift into sleep, but also to stay asleep. Hope that helps. Are there any specific brands or types of sunset lenses you recommend? So the brand that I use is RX, and they are really high quality sunset lenses. You do want to make sure that these blue blocker glasses that you get are high quality and that they've been tested to actually block the kinds of light that we're trying to block. The other thing I will say is that I've tried other blue blocker glasses and they can be incredibly uncomfortable. I do not like wearing glasses. And honestly, if it was up to me, I wouldn't wear these either. But I have noticed that they really do make a difference. So it's worth it to offset that blue light, especially in the evening when we are having when we're trying to make that natural transition to sleep. How often should ETR be practiced to see significant improvements in sleep quality? So if you are really struggling to fall asleep and stay asleep, then I would suggest that you practice ETR just about every day. I think you will find that the results are pretty dramatic for you and you'll want to continue with it. It's really fairly easy once you get over the adjustment period. If you're accustomed to eating in the evening, you are going to have to kind of rearrange your schedule so that you can finish your last meal by, let's just say, around 4 p.m. But you will find that when you don't honor this ETR and you are still eating at 6, 7, 8 o'clock at night, you will notice how much it affects your sleep. And nothing motivates us to maintain better habits than being able to really tightly correlate them to any sort of issue that we have going on. So ETR best most days. What's the optimal temperature range for a bedroom to enhance sleep? So 65 to 70, I mentioned that. And I will say that sometimes 65 can feel a little too cold. It really just depends on your overall environment, how much covers you like to sleep with. Honestly, I like to sleep with a down duvet, and so I prefer it to be a little cooler, but somewhere in the 65 to 70 range typically works pretty well. And if you find that it's really challenging for you to get your bedroom down to that temperature, Or sometimes you'll find that it feels uncomfortable trying to fall asleep when you've got the temperature really low. And so you may want to not adjust the thermostat until it gets closer to sleep time so that the temperature just naturally cools up to about, like, you want the temperature to be, fully realized, the reduction in temperature to be fully realized by at least like 11 or 12. But if it takes, 2 or 3 hours to get there, then you might not adjust the thermostat until 9 or 10 so that it doesn't feel quite as chilly when you're getting into bed and trying to trigger that process. It will make a big difference though if you use those sunset blue blocker glasses, because that will help you fall asleep. And then as the temperature cools, that will help you stay asleep. How can we minimize noise and light pollution in our sleeping environment? When we lived in an apartment many years ago, it's been almost 20 years ago now, but we lived in an apartment and they had a big, essentially like parking lot light right outside our bedroom window. And there's nothing as bad as artificial light like that, especially at night. There's a reason why they tell us to turn the lights off for the turtles, because the turtles, just like us, we respond to the moonlight. If you've got a situation where you don't have unnatural light outside and can just sleep with the moonlight coming in, that will do wonders to align your circadian rhythms. But if you have unnatural light outside, you are going to need to use some blackout drapes and figure out how to black out that light, because it really will disturb your sleep. I really wrestled with it and finally had to get just a, ugly, super thick blackout material and essentially, like, attach it to the wall, because even just trying to use blackout curtains, there was too much light coming in around the sides and really created a problem. So if you're trying to sleep with noise or light pollution, it definitely is a problem, and I feel your pain. With noise, a lot of times we really just don't have control over the noise. I do not suggest earplugs unless you just absolutely have to use them. They really kind of disrupt your balance. And so if you can just use a white noise machine and that's enough for you, that's far preferable than turning to a sleep mask. So a sleep mask can be uncomfortable and make it challenging to fall and stay asleep. And the earplugs do the same thing. They just really kind of, when we talked about creating a safe environment and like a sense of safety, having on an eye mask and earplugs in really will also impact that sense of safety and make it hard to just really relax and maintain that state that allows you to stay asleep through the night. Have you ever wondered why sleep gets harder as we age? I'm going to give you a couple of pointers here and some things to think about so that you can work with your body as you age and not let this sleep disturbance become a big issue for you. So we are hardwired to sleep between 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. Our circadian rhythms are basically established by the sunrise and the sunset. And this 11 p.m. to 5 a.m. window is the window that we really need to be sleeping. And in fact, the most important period of time there is the period of time between 11 p.m. and 1 a.m. And so I have a lot of people that tell me that they just can't get to bed by 11 p.m. And maybe they feel like they're not tired. And so to that, I will say, Have you cooled the environment? Have you used the blue blocker sunset lenses? Have you done the things that you need to do? Have you practiced ETR, early time restricted eating? All of those things will contribute to you being able to drift off to sleep by 11. If your schedule makes this really challenging, then I suggest that you really take a hard look at your schedule, because really the most important period of time for your sleep is 11 p.m. to 1 a.m. And that means you really need to be soundly to sleep by 11 p.m., which means you should probably be in bed by 10 or 10:30 at the latest, and using those sunset lenses to trigger the yawning, and before you know it, you'll have fallen asleep. And then we practice some of the other things so that we stay asleep. And then I recommend that if you wake up anytime after 5 a.m., you just go ahead and get up. We typically want you to get between 7 and 9 hours of sleep. So as you can see, 11 to 5 is only 6 hours. So you probably are going to need a little more sleep than that. But if you wake up after 5 and try to force your body to go back to sleep, it's kind of just going to mess with your circadian rhythms. So I would suggest that you just go ahead and get up, and then that will make it easier to fall asleep. So if there are some things you're doing at night, these things may need to be moved to the morning. Waking up between 5 and 6, maybe that will give you a little more time in the morning to be able to get some of these things done that you've been doing at night. And, if one of those things is watching TV, then that's probably going to have to go. It really is just a waste of time, but it's also robbing you of your precious sleep. So during this period, from p.m. to 5 a.m., in Oriental medicine, I'm an acupuncturist and have a master's degree in Oriental medicine. And so during this period of time, there are three 2-hour windows. The first one is focused on the gallbladder. We use an acronym for the gallbladder, GB. The second 2-hour window of time from 1 to 3 focuses on the liver. And the third 2-hour period of time focuses on the lung, 3 to 5. So if you are waking up in the middle of the night regularly, once you have established that you can fall asleep and you're falling asleep when you're supposed to be falling asleep, meaning that you're asleep by 11, then if you're finding that you're waking up in the middle of the night, you'll typically find that you're waking up around the same time every night. And so if you're finding that you're waking up around the same time every night, it points to which organ is the one that is primarily being affected, and what kind of toxicity is creating a problem for you. And many women find that they wake up between 1 and 3, and this is a clear sign that your liver is trying to burn too much sugar that you consume during the day. And keep in mind that sugar is not just, actual sugar. It is anything that is a carb has pretty much turned to sugar. And honestly, even protein, if you're consuming too much protein, that will essentially be excess fuel. This is one of the reasons why we really want to stop eating earlier in the day, because it gives us more time to burn that off before we are trying to sleep. And we want our liver detoxing other things and burning fat. And so we don't want it still trying to burn the sugar in the middle of the night that we ate during the day. So really important to honor this 11 p.m. to 5 a.m. sleeping window, and also to make sure that you're preparing for sleep to make that happen. You should be easily falling asleep and staying asleep. It's common for women to supplement with magnesium or melatonin to help with sleep disturbance. So which works best? I'm going to break it down for you. If you are considering taking magnesium or melatonin, maybe you are already taking one or the other, I will caution you, I don't recommend that you take any supplements long term. You should only be supplementing in the short term for a known deficiency. And then essentially, we're just reminding our body of what it's designed to do naturally. And we should be consuming all of these nutrients through our food and basically supplying the body's energy system so that it can produce these things naturally. Melatonin is a hormone. The body makes melatonin out of the other raw building blocks that we consume. So when we take melatonin from essentially an unnatural source, we supplement with melatonin, it is interrupting our body's natural hormone creation process. And this might sound like, so what? That's what I need to do. And you may find that you do need to do that on occasion, but if you do it repeatedly long term, there are other side effects that are happening that you don't want to perpetuate. So one of the main reasons you would supplement with melatonin is because you're getting muscle cramps. If you're finding that your legs are cramping in the night, any sort of like muscle sort of discomfort or pain typically points to a magnesium deficiency. And I will tell you that if you wake up with leg cramps, you can even get up and take a melatonin supplement. You want to make sure you've got something handy, a high quality supplement. But you can take that supplement and it will quiet that right down, and you should be able to fall back asleep fairly quickly. So if muscle cramps are happening, then magnesium would be the thing that would be most likely what would be beneficial for you. And again, remember, magnesium is not something you want to supplement with all the time. Even magnesium is meant to exist in our body in a ratio, essentially. And so when our body makes these minerals naturally from what we're consuming, then it produces things, it pulls out what it needs in exactly the right ratio. When we kind of force our body to deal with a disproportionate amount of something, don't be surprised when a bunch of other things kind of get out of balance, and then you are essentially adding toxicity to an already toxic body with these symptoms that you're experiencing. So in case you were wondering, no bueno. Not good. So if you have trouble falling asleep, that typically points to a problem with this cascade that involves the pineal gland and the melatonin production. So supplementing with melatonin can be helpful. Again, we want to do that in the short term just to sort of like jumpstart the process, but you definitely do not want to be supplementing with melatonin long term. Also, if you're having a problem staying asleep, supplementing with melatonin is going to make matters worse. And so you've got a different issue going on if you're having a problem staying asleep. So we have to make sure that you're identifying what your real problem is. And if you are choosing to supplement, that you're supplementing with the right thing to address your problem. This is one of the reasons why I don't recommend that people just supplement long term. People hear that they should take melatonin, and so they start taking melatonin, and the next thing you know, I ask them, how long have you been taking the melatonin? I don't know, 3 years. and so if you're taking any supplement for more than a few months, it's time to take a break from that supplement. And most women find that they don't even notice a difference when they stop taking it, which basically means they didn't need it. And so you don't want to be taking anything, putting anything in your body that it doesn't need. Believe me, your body has plenty of toxicity to manage without you adding additional toxicity with supplements that are not called for. And then last, do you need minerals or do you need hormones? So I've kind of mentioned here that melatonin is a hormone. And so if you have a problem falling asleep, melatonin may be part of the root cause of the problem. And so it points to a hormone disruption. But if you are having issues with cramps and just generally staying asleep, that can point more to a mineral imbalance. And then you may want to supplement with a mineral supplement that's not just magnesium. Basically, it's a mineral supplement that's got a complex combination of minerals, and they tend to like have already kind of put those minerals together in a way that tries to maintain balance. They can never do it the way the body would do it naturally, but essentially it will allow your body to kind of jumpstart that mineral creation and refill the tank. If the tank has gotten kind of depleted, then refilling the tank may be what you need to give your body like a new place to start, like a fresh start. And so this was the Let's Talk Toxin show. And if your question wasn't answered, comment below or visit drgayla.com/links. And thank you for tuning in.